So can you game on a MacBook Pro in 2024? Well, I've done an extensive test on the popular games available based on different tiers. So let's find out. So I'll be breaking down the gaming test into 3 tiers: high graphics or AAA games, mid graphics and low graphic games. Now just for context, this is the 14-inch MacBook Pro with the M3 chip, 8GB of RAM with 8-core CPU and a 10-core GPU and with 1TB of storage. So does this live up to the hype of being able to game properly on a MacBook Pro? Well, here are the tests. First on the list is Resident Evil Village, a AAA title from Capcom that hit macOS in 2022. Now we tested the game out with high graphics and this is how it went. Now the game runs like a charm on the MacBook Pro, optimized for perfection with stunning visuals and immersive sound, even with just gaming on the speakers on this 14-inch MacBook Pro. Now battery life also steals the show because it powered through an intense game for a solid hour and a half. Quite a feat compared to other laptops. Now unplugged power gaming is a dream for some people and the good news is that you can do that over here. So you can sneak in a session of gaming during a long commute in a train. Now let's touch on the temperatures. It runs warm but surprisingly not comfortably hot. Even when I accidentally left the game on for quite a while without using a charger. And I have to say that the MacBook Pro handled the heat like a champ, so kudos to Apple's smart thermal design. Then next on the list is Baldur's Gate 3, an RPG developed by Larian Studios based on the popular Dungeons & Dragons tabletop game. So this game came out last year and received massive praise from both critics and fans alike. Now Baldur's Gate 3 is much more of a demanding title when compared to Resident Evil Village, so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the MacBook Pro runs well when it comes to this particular game. Now we tested the game out with medium settings and it was playable, but honestly not the best experience compared to Resident Evil Village since it's not specifically optimized for a Mac experience, especially the deeper we got into the game, but overall a great playing experience. Then on to the next batch, which is the mid-tier games. But just before that, if you like this kind of a content or testing done, do give this video a nice big thumbs up and a subscription would be lovely too. Thank you very much in advance. So the next 2 games may not be as intense as others, but it's still good enough to give the M3 MacBook Pro a good workout. So I've tried Dota and set to medium graphics at 120Hz and it was smooth sailing even with the fancy effects. The MacBook Pro handles it like a champ. Now when I push it further with the weather effects, the performance took a tiny hit but still totally playable. And here's a pro tip. If you want to have a few extra frames, just turn off the animated hero portrait in the game settings. Now one thing I've noticed is that the battery drain a little faster compared to playing Resident Evil Village, but despite that it is still good enough to squeeze in a round or 2 of turbo. Next, we look at the ever-popular Fortnite, and I was a bit skeptical at first, wondering whether or not it could handle the fast-paced gameplay, especially the graphics. And turns out it was hitting pretty consistent at 60 to 90 FPS with medium settings. Now I thought of cranking up the graphics a bit more, but the MacBook Pro started to heat up a bit more and the battery usage also went up, so I decided to keep it as it is. And I have to say that the level of detail and sound is fantastic, and once again I can even play without a headset, still giving me a very great experience, proving that the 14-inch MacBook Pro has very great speakers still. Now diving into the last tier of the gaming tests, the lighter, less demanding ones. Now our focus is Hades and Bastion. So it is time to see whether or not the MacBook Pro 14-inch can handle these games, because if it cannot, habislah.
I'm in danger!
So Hades is like a roguelike action RPG that came out in 2021. It has an isometric view with a hack and slash battle system, and this game received a universal acclaim and won few high-profile gaming awards. And I've tested Hades on medium settings and played for a solid 40 minutes straight without a hitch. And by the way, if you're playing for hours, it's probably because you have a skill issue. If you keep dying every time, but seriously, no stutter and the frame rate stays stable throughout. Next, we tried out Bastion, a classic beloved indie game that came out way back in 2011. Now, even though this is the oldest game in the list, it still has a strong player base to this day, hence why we have included it over here, where the game visuals hold up well despite its age, and I must say that it runs quite smoothly. The sound experience once again was truly impressive, so yeah, given its indie status in the low tier, I'm not surprised that this runs very well. And I even played on battery, and guess what? There was barely any battery drain issues. So all in all, it's a pretty solid gaming experience. So in conclusion, after conducting thorough tests, I can confidently affirm that gaming on the MacBook Pro 14 is indeed possible. With the impressive capabilities of the M3 chip in the MacBook Pro 14-inch, I can say that it is ready for some serious gaming but not fully yet. The gaming industry hasn't completely embraced Mac compatibility yet. Where as seen in this test, Resident Evil Village played very well specifically because it was made and optimized for the Mac. And it's nice that there are some optimized games that is coming for the Mac as well. And even with Apple's recent emphasis on gaming, the truth is that the number of Mac gamers is still low as of now, but with Macs proving that they can handle gaming, the potential is there and Apple needs to rally more developers for Mac OS compatibility.